Hey everybody, happy is it 2025, the year 2225, whatever it's called in the song.
In the year 2020.
We have our very own New Year's baby, Greg. And we are so thrilled to start off the year. It's going to be a good year, a little bit of transition coming up, so maybe the episode will be out this week or next, but we are so thrilled to have a really great guest. I'd love to welcome Susan Plunkett. Hello.
Susan.
Hello, how are you? It's very, very good to be seen and very good to see you.
Very good.
We're talking to all of you out there.
Yes, all of you.
We see all of
You're all
you.
beautiful. You're all beautiful. Great audience, great crowd. But I'm going to go back. We always will go back to the beginning in a second, but I had that moment where I said I met you about 5 years ago, 6 years ago at the Bop Shop, where I was telling Ben Morey, and I've known Greg Townsend. He's playing in a benefit. I saw them with the Essentials, first time ever night. It was like 1990 in spring at Jazzberries. So it's one of those
Very good memory, I got to tell you.
one of those tales where it's like I was able to ask Ian McLaughlin to clear up some things about Rod Stewart's book. He goes, Rod's full of bollocks on this one. But for you, I'm telling Ben and Kim, I was like, I met Greg in 1990. I told Trevor Lake, I met Greg the year you were born, and now you're playing for him. But I think it was the Essentials, and they were playing at Jazzberries. My friend David Cuesta brought me down after we saw the Kings at U of R, and it was one of those ignominious moments where Dave was drunk from the previous concert and poured a pitcher. He had Bass Ale, I think, because we got a pitcher and he poured it in my lap. Otherwise, it was a really good show. It's rock and roll, you know. It's rock and roll. But
It's hard to drink it when it's in your lap.
you should see look and say, hi.
You just get a lot of rumors started when you try to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the beginning. What this crazy business of music clubs? What got you into doing this?
All right, I will tell you that many years ago when I first got married, that I had a lot of friends, and I used to entertain them all the time. They were young. I was married. They thought I was weird because I was married, but they enjoyed me. They thought I was pretty hip for somebody that was married because they didn't think that was very cool. And they used to come over to my house all the time, and I used to make food for them. And I started to really, really, really enjoy making all the food. I would lie in bed at night, and I would look at cookbooks, and I would learn so much about food. And then I would try to have these very elaborate parties for all my friends, and they just went crazy. And they always said, you know what? You could really start a restaurant. I mean, that was, many, many, many years ago. But when the opportunity came up, and that was in 1984, the Genesee Co-op decided that they didn't want to keep going as a restaurant, and they offered it to just anybody that would like to take over the restaurant. And the wonderful part about it was that it had all the equipment, tables and chairs, and it had so much equipment because restaurants are so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
That I, for some reason, and you know what, I can't even remember how in the heck I even began to think about doing it, but my little brain started clicking.
Where was the Co-op? Is that on Monroe?
Yes, that was on Monroe Avenue. It was on Monroe Avenue in the old firehouse near Oxford Street.
Right, okay.
Across the street from the Lotus restaurant, which was a vegetarian restaurant. So there was some things that were very important about the Co-op because it was a place that people could get vegetarian food.
Right.
So basically what happened is my mother, Rita Wanderman, very generously gave me $10,000. So that's really hardly any money whatsoever, but because the restaurant was well equipped, I decided to go for it.
Right.
No experience whatsoever, nothing whatsoever, but, I'm the kind of person that I'll go for it, and I went for it. And so, that's how it really all got started.
Food and music's going to be a big part of this show. That's awesome.
How long were you in? Was it an operation under you?
First of all, the Jazzberries on Monroe Avenue went from spring of 84 to 88. And then I left there and had to raise money. And then I opened up Jazzberries Uptown, and that was in 1990, spring 1990, April 28th. I always remember that date. And I had to raise a whole bunch of money to open up this place. And I'm a kind of person that once I make a decision, I have great ideas, and I went for it, and I opened up a place. I opened up Jazzberry's Uptown.
And I was there the first night.
I know you told me that, and when I walked in, you were telling me that.
I admire the gumption too, because there's actually a story in Anthony Bourdain's book about restaurants, and he goes on about, okay, you're a dentist, you have parties, they love your wife's cooking. Why don't we open a restaurant?
Oh, listen, I'll tell you something.
Within a year, it's gone.
Let me tell you something. So few restaurants make it. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, it's very hard.
And I had no experience whatsoever, but I managed to keep it going, the whole thing, for 6 years, and then I'm so glad that I did. One thing that I'm very happy about is when I went down to Jazzberry's Uptown, that we had a group of people and we named it the East End. And I always feel as though I had that vision of going into the downtown area, and I was partially responsible for why it became so popular. And the city of Rochester actually gives me credit for that. And that, to me, that's
awesome.
I mean, that is really fantastic. I think about it and I say, wow.
Yeah, and
I can't believe it. You know,
still called that. Yeah.
You know, I think about Jazzberry's all the time. I think about Jazzberry's all the time for many, many reasons. I'll be watching TV and I go, they were in Jazzberry's. I can't believe it. You know, it was a long time ago, over 30 years ago, and even longer for the first Jazzberry's. And I can never believe that I actually went through this and did what I did. I can't believe it.
You know what I call that? I talk to a good friend of mine, my friend Luke Roman, all the time about, we used to work at Monty's Corner, Monty's Crown, and we talk about how this was basically a little splinter in time we had with that district in the area, but we always think there was just something we had that was special. And you get these slices of life, these eras, and you never forget them, and you look back and go, oh, wow.
No, there's no doubt about it. You know, I wanted to say a little bit, too. You had asked me a little bit about Jazzberry's. It was a vegetarian restaurant. And back in the 80s, vegetarian restaurants had a bad rap. Brown rice and sprouts. Right. That's what people thought.
No. Alfalfa sprouts. That was
That's what they thought.
Alfalfa sprouts.
So what I had to do is I had to figure out how I was going to make that vegetarian food very special. And because I had been reading cookbooks and thinking about it and having all my friends over, I really am the kind, I want to just say this is important to me. I'm the kind of person, I don't want to be stuck in one place. Now, it was called Jazzberry's, and I'm a jazzer. That means I love jazz more than anything. But I would never just focus on one type of music, nor would I focus on one kind of food. So what I was trying to create in my vision, and this is important, my vision was to be a place, a venue for people to express themselves and not be one type of music. So I created many, 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 many different types of music, and we will talk about what I created and what and so many other things. But the food was the first thing that I had to think about. And I had some experience working at a place on Monroe Avenue down at the other end called Hoosier Bill's. And Hoosier Bill's, we had a different cuisine. Every single week I focused on a different cuisine. Korean food, Vietnamese food, Middle Eastern food, French food, German food. And although I didn't know, a huge amount about every single cuisine, I learned enough about it to create a vegetarian menu of a different cuisine for a long time. And that was really fun. And I really, really think I gave the audience or my guests, my clientele, a whole different point of view about food.
I think that's great, though. I mean, you were way ahead of the curve on all that variety. And everybody, before there wasn't much diversity in the food thing.
Right. I think people thought of it as very healthy. Yeah. And so I tried to create something from all these different cultures. Mm-hmm. So my menu was Mexican, Italian, Spanish, a little bit of everything.
And exposing people to all these different things that they might never,
See, you look around, it's almost like everything, you could trace a lot of this back to what you did now, but you're really striking home for me, too, because when I lived in Alexandria, we had a thing where we would go for a different type of restaurant every Friday. So
That's right.
Afghani. So the best story, though, is when you get to know the people who run it. So there's an Indian restaurant. He's like, Americans don't like spicy. Try this. I don't know what this thing was. But it was like, it looked like a little, like almost like a cabbage roll or pepper. But, I mean, the hottest thing I've ever had from an Indian restaurant was fowl. But this thing, whatever it was like an inferno. And then I'm thinking afterwards, after I could finally talk again, they actually like me, you know, and I appreciate them, because I think when you open yourself to cultures and you just try to embrace it, and you're not kind of, that's how you do it. It's like I've always found, like, speaking French in, like, Quebec or something. No, they're not snobby. As long as you try. You may say you want to order soup. You might say, give me a boot and stuff it down my throat. They appreciate the effort.
That's right. So, you know, what I did is I created a place that never focused on one cuisine and never focused on one type of music. It became a showcase for people's talent. No, you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you a little bit. I started out with food, and then a very short time afterwards, and I don't know, it just came to me that I needed to fill the place up with music.
Right. Which
now,
is smart,
I filled it up with music sometimes during lunch I would have somebody play, during dinner I would have somebody play, and then after we finished up, we had either something going every single day of the year. I'm very, very, very proud of the fact that I created a place that became a showcase for what your talents were. People would come to me. They would give me tapes. I would listen to them. And if I thought that it was going to work, I would give them a date.
Right.
They, in turn, could decide if they wanted one band to play or two bands to play or three bands to play that night. And that is how everything happened. So it wasn't just music. I'm going to, as we go on, there are some things that I created that I'm extremely, extremely proud of. And I have a list of all the people that play the Jazzberries, and then I keep finding out that there's even more people. I can't even believe it.
Remember the one night you were sick and Paul McCartney came in?
Oh, wouldn't I wish that? We had a lot of people coming in. We had people that were in town. That Natalie Merchants came in. I mean, we had different people that would come in and have dinner. And Victor Wooten played there, but he also came in for dinner. And we had lots of different people coming in. You know.
Can I ask real quick? So I'm thinking. Was there any one food style that, like let's say your receipts for the week or whatever, was there one that really stood out? You know, was German the big one, or was Italian the big one? You know,
believe it or not, the most popular thing that I had was called a jazz burger. And it was a jazz burger made with lentils and mushrooms and carrots and onions. And I'm still making it today at Susan Plunkett's Fabulous Foods, where I'm still working. And I had a sign outside that said 3,000 jazz burgers sold.
Nice.
So that was probably the most...
I love veggie burgers.
I do too.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the most popular thing that I served. But I say the Italian and the Mexican were so very popular. I had a menu that you came in and you looked at.
Right.
My mother, Rita Wanderman, was a riot. She was the hostess there. And she just adored being there, and people adored her. She would do somersaults for people across the floor. She was a riot, and she was very proud of me. So that was a really wonderful thing. My son, Aaron, worked there for a while, and then my son Jeremy worked there. So I had different people in my family helping me, and that was always so much fun. And they were a little older, so it wasn't I had to stay home and watch them. So
but see, the passion for it is the big thing.
Yeah, the passion for it. You know, I think about it. I still think about it all the time, and I just can't believe that I actually created something so phenomenal. I mean, it
was real.
I mean, really. See, the thing is as I've repeated many times, people would come in and say, "Look, we have an ensemble that we've been working on, and we'd love a place to be able to use to be able to create our things for you." So let's say a black ensemble came in. I can't. Let's see. I tried to remember the name of it, but a lot of groups would come in and say, "We need a place to do something. What do you think about us coming here?" And I always would give somebody a chance because I felt not only was it a place for everyone, but they would bring a new crowd in.
Right.
And so here's the very important thing. No matter how hip I was, no matter how fantastic I was, if I didn't make money, I wasn't going to make it.
Right.
I had to be a businesswoman. And you have to always remember that. How do I keep this place going, make enough money, and keep it going with all the ideas that I have? Not easy. And not only is it not easy, no one in their right mind would have opened a place with as little money as I have. And I have to say, I must admit that my ego was so strong that I had to go for it. And I didn't have enough money necessarily to open up Jazzberry's Uptown, but I said, I'm going for it. Yeah. And let me tell you something. I never, ever regretted it. Edith Piaf says I never regretted anything, and I've never regretted that.
That's good.
I've never regretted it. I had to pay back a lot of money, no problem. I did it, and it was the most sensational thing that I have done my whole life. You know, I'm going to, I know that you're going to ask me to explain to you a little bit about some of the people that I had at Jazzberry's, and I would love to talk about that.
Before that, though, the one thing I have to ask that I just didn't, where'd you get the name from?
Ken Rich, friend of mine, so good with names. I said to him, Ken, can you come up with a name? I know you're good at this. And it didn't take him long, and I looked at that word and I said, that's it, Jazzberry's. Because I'm a jazzer. I used to sing jazz. I'm a jazz singer. And I said, that is a perfect name. And it really is such a perfect name for me.
Because it sort of flows to
it rolls off the tongue very well.
But the other first thing I remember in college, one of my friends had lunch at Jazzberry's. So first time I ever heard it, I go, Willy Wonka, Stozzleberries. I got to go to this place.
That's great. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think that a lot of people like Jazzberry's for a lot of reasons. I want to tell you a few things. A lot of people were very sick, and vegan food was really important to them. They came to Jazzberry's often, and I developed a relationship with people that were very, very ill, and they really appreciated that I was able to cook the type of food that they were, wanted. And so I learned a lot about vegan food.
Right.
I don't call myself an expert. I called myself someone that was very interested in creating the type of food that was important to different people for different reasons.
And I think also there's a point, like Greg said, you're real. And I think that's key. You can go to a chain restaurant or something, you may like it, but you could tell if you go someplace and somebody's got a real passion for it.
I did have
music and everything else, music clubs, everything else.
That's right. I used to walk. I always enjoyed, taking my apron and going outside and saying hello to everybody. That was always fun for me. I would go to each table and say how you do it, and people appreciated it. And also, Jazzberry's was a place where a lot of people that were kosher, which is, something they would come to Jazzberry's. They felt comfortable coming there, even though it wasn't kosher. They felt that it was a kosher style that was important to them. So I'm Jewish, and a lot of people told me that they came there because of that reason. And so that was another thing that was really terrific.
That's
cool. There was a lot of reasons that people enjoy Jazzberry's. And that's what's important to me. And then you take the food. There was people that only came to the food. You had people that came to the food and the music. So I created something, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I'm really big. I talk about this on the show all the time, about opening people's minds to music, and that a lot of people, they just are stuck in what they like. And I just keep saying that about, why don't you try something you haven't before, you might like it.
Right.
I always use the point of my uncle Art hadn't tried Chinese food until he was like in his 60s, and then he loved them.
That's good.
One of my friends, I got into scallops. What are you, like 40 now? They were there before. They weren't just discovered. But I like that I try to convince people to go see bands, and often I'll say, well, how do you describe it? I really can't, but they're good. You'll like them. And then I'll finally drag somebody out and go, Rob, these guys are great. Well, I told you this for like a year. And I like that you had this diversity. It's like, if it's good, I'll play it.
Right.
And I do see some clubs still do that these days.
I think your point earlier about exposing, if you get different menus and you're going to get different people, and I think that's super important.
I find that look
because that way you're exposing people that would never think of going there. Maybe
that's right.
All of a sudden, then they tell their friends, and exponentially things start to happen.
And the one other point I will make, though, too, is you said, it's great doing all this, but I do remind people, like I might have like a friend go, I can't get any gigs. I go, I would love if I somehow found out I had a rich aunt who left me $20 million. I would open a club and I'd have people play. But in the bottom line, you have to stay in business and make money.
You have
right.
to stay,
and you have to say, look, I really want to help you, but I just have to face reality a little bit.
And you know what? It's really true. Here's the thing. I had many different types of music. I'd like to tell you a little bit about some.
Yeah.
Okay, look, there are certain bands that they drank more. I had my beer license. I was lucky enough to have that. And there are certain bands that drink more than others. And even though you have to be responsible for having booze, I had to make money. So it was a great thing. The blues people, they might trash the place, but they drink a lot, and it was well worth it.
I'm remembering the line from the Blues Brothers. Well, we're going to pay you $300. You drink $4 worth of beer. The only thing I'll say about beer at Jazzberry's, I wasn't lucky to have beer there one night. More to my laugh.
We had so many different great types of beer, and I really learned a lot about it.
You had Bass. I still remember it was Bass
That's
Ale.
right. I remember that, too.
It wasn't any Jenny getting poured in my lap.
That was good.
Yeah. So listen, what I tried to do, I had some music that I wasn't crazy about, but at the same time, it was important to me. I had hardcore music, I had metal music, rock did terrific there. I had some country music. I had a lot of improv evenings. I had poetry. And here's what I will tell you. We had a lot of garage, punk music, Zydeco, bluegrass. We had a lot of jazzers. There were so many different types of music. Folk music was huge. Bluegrass. I have pictures on my Facebook from Jazzberry.
Did you have Paulson, Baker, and Garvey and guys like that?
No, I did not.
I'm
the biggest person I probably had was Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh, okay. Well, they were local, but I was just when you said folk, I was just kind of wondering.
You picked the one band you didn't have.
I had. There were so many different. The first Jazzberries was only 55 to 65 people.
Yeah.
Jazzberries Uptown was larger. It created me to be able to have big names, and it had at least 300 people I could get.
And where was that?
50 East Avenue.
By Milestones, was it around there?
That was
Milestones.
Milestones took over after I left. It was at 50 East Avenue. It's not there anymore. It's a Appellate Court.
Right.
It's a library now.
Okay,
so it was right up near the corner there of Chestnut.
Yeah.
And
I vaguely, because I didn't drive that night. So when I'm not driving, it's like, okay, we parked, here it is.
Yeah, well, I wasn't around in the 80s. I came back.
You weren't born yet.
It went from 80 to 84, and then I raised money, and I opened up in 1990 to 1992.
Ah, okay.
But I want to tell you, I would love to tell you a couple things that were really, really vital for me.
Yep.
I created something that I am really, really proud of. I became the first deaf poetry series in the United States.
Wow.
I had at Jazzberry's.
That's way cool.
It was absolutely one of the most exciting events that I had over and over again. Peter Cook, brilliant poet, actor, went on to be a professor years later. Now is just got a thing at Yale University teaching ALS, American Sign Language, ASL, I guess you call it. And It was, Kenny Lerner was his interpreter. Brilliant interpreter, brilliant actor. Absolutely, I think one of the most important things that I did at Jazzberry was to create this incredible series, and the deaf community really, really appreciated
I never
it.
even heard of that. That's
it was so
cool.
exciting to me. And the reason I did that is because my first cousin, Stevie Schultz, was deaf, and that was always an important issue to me. But I always think about that as what is one of the most important things you did. And that was one of the most important things I did.
I would say so. That's really nice.
I mean,
really
I was
awesome.
always so happy about that. You know, if you had something, let's say you're a band that just started out. You want a place to play. You're nervous.
Right.
And you come to see me, and I say to you, I'm so very happy for you. And I try to encourage people, a lot of young people too.
Right.
We had a lot of underage groups, I want you to know.
Oh, wow.
And I got into a lot of trouble doing that, but that was very important for me.
Well, you got to start someplace.
Look, a lot of anger and a lot of energy, and bands that are young like that need a place to play.
Right.
They did a lot of slam dancing, and I'm telling you, it was just a crazy place, but I was very happy to be there for everybody. And the underage shows were important, and I find that it was a great venue for underage people.
That's awesome, yeah.
I started other series. I started a Baroque series and the harpsichord came, and violin players. I mean, I had so many different genres.
Wow.
And you know that even though I love certain types of music better than ever, I never ever want to be just so narrow-minded that I keep it very small. Everything is important to me. The food was as important as the music. Without food, without the music, I was not happy. I have to have music. I have to be entertained. I have to have creativity in any way that I can. So this is why the restaurant was such a viable place in Rochester, New York.
I mean, I think the closest thing to something like that now is a little cafe, and
that's right.
Not as big as what you had going
Well, that's
on.
fine, but the thing is, it's somebody's vision, and it's important to have a place like that.
Right.
Some of the people that were playing at the little cafe played at Jazzberries.
Right.
I mean, it would be great I created, because I had two places, and because they were so very different, the second place that I had, the Jazzberries Uptown, I was able, because I could have 300 people, we had a lot of big names come, Dizzy Gillespie.
That's cool.
Let me explain to you. Spider Martin was a tenor player, and he came to me and wanted to do a gig there. So I said, absolutely. And the way that I survived, I'm going to tell you the way that I survived financially with some of these bands. This is really, really something that I don't see very often, but this was how I figured I was going to be able to have entertainment every single day and be able to afford to do that. The bands that were local took the door.
Right.
Okay, they took the door. Now, no social media back then.
Right.
How do you get the people there? Posters plastered everywhere. People send me their posters all the time, and I post them. They posted them on all the street corners, and it drove them crazy, but they didn't have the social media.
Right.
I obviously used free time and City Newspaper and the Democrat and Chronicle to send in what was happening at Jazzberries, and free time especially was a fantastic place that showcased a lot of the bands that I had in big, huge letters and everything. But that is the way that I survived. Obviously, when a band came from out of town, I sold tickets and had to pay them. I had to be very careful. But the bands that played every day took the door.
Right. That makes sense.
I couldn't afford to pay them every day. I would never be able to make it. Now, by them having to take the door, how are they going to get people there? And that's why they plastered their signs all over, told all their fans they had to create their audience.
Right.
And that is how I survived having music or some kind of event every single day.
Yeah. Well, that's still kind of a thing now. When bands I'm in or anybody's band, the club guy will say, or the owner will say, well, do you have a crowd? I mean, that's like such an obvious question. But I think a lot of bands, the place has a crowd. People go there anyway. Well, sometimes.
It doesn't work that way.
Sometimes, but not always,
Right. You had to get your own crowd there.
Right.
Now, there were some bands that were very popular.
Right.
Colorblind James.
Right.
Bob Henry. Right. The Essentials. Big
Bobby
time.
Henry, yeah.
Bob Henry and the Gauners.
Right.
Still playing. Still talented.
Right.
Fantastic. big audiences.
Yep.
Colorblind James was, and he passed away when he was young, was one of the most fantastic bands that I had there. So and Chuck Humanelli, just a marvelous, talented person, and he just helped me so much with my music and came every single month. The Bone Dippers, you know the Bone Dippers?
Yep, Frank.
Still playing,
Frank
right?
Bohm, yep.
And Peter, Frank, oh my God, they were so fabulous. They played every month.
Yep, I have a friend that plays with them. Yep.
Yeah, see, they played every month because they brought such a big crowd. Dog's Life, Joff Wilson, The Fugitives, Nate Coffey still doing Murphy's.
Right.
I mean, he's so talented, and he's just such a fan and someone that plays so often, and these are so important to me.
I think he learned a lot of lessons from you because he's a very good entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
You know, Miche Frambo passed away, a bunch of years ago, and he came to me and was one of the most serious musicians that I've ever met. He was very concerned how his band and I were going to get along. And I really worked very hard to establish a relationship with him so that he could play whenever he wanted to. That's how good we got along. And he passed away, and his wife, Wendy, is trying to make a documentary about him, and she just wrote me and told me. I said, I was so fond of your husband, and she said he was very fond of me, and I was really happy to hear that. But he was such a serious and such a talented man, and look at all the relationships I have with people. I still hear from people. You know, it's so amazing. These people were like in their 20s when they started out, and they said, thank you, Susan, for giving me a chance. Thank you for making it for me, making me, enjoy myself so much playing at your club. And you know what? That means a lot to me. You know?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it really does. I mean, Personal Effects. You know Personal Effects?
Yeah.
Peggy and Paul.
Well, I know the name.
They're
of the
doing
band.
Margaret's Explosion now.
Right. Okay, I know.
Yeah.
that.
Anyhow, they were so talented, and they.
Paul Dodd.
Yeah. Well, the Essentials played Jazzberries the first gig, and the Personal Effects played the next one. And when I started Jazzberries Uptown, I had no money in my pocket. Nobody in their right mind would start a business the way that I did.
Now, the Fugitives, was that the band with Roger?
No.
Uncle Raj? What band was he?
You know what? I don't
know. I'm blanking.
You know what? I don't remember what band he was in, but Joff Wilson was the Fugitives.
Okay.
And Joff is living in New York, and he plays, I think, for a band. I don't know if it's called Soul Cakes, but I hear from him. He comes into Rochester once in a while, plays at Lux.
Okay.
And so there were so many bands. Joff played in the band called the Fugitives. You know them at all, the Fugitives?
I've seen them, but it's been a while.
So and then the Essentials brought Pee Wee Ellis with. You know who Pee Wee was?
Yeah.
Well, he passed away recently, but he used to play with them all the time. And I have 3 posters posted on my Facebook page of the Essentials with Pee Wee. I mean, that's big time, Yeah.
Was it the Essentials first, then the Salamanders, and then the High Rise?
Oh, you know what? There's some kind of somebody was writing about the other day, and I don't think they were the Salamanders.
I think.
What were they called?
Well, the Salamanders. I think one of the Bradley guys was in that.
Yeah,
band,
one of them.
But Todd, and everybody. You mean? Todd Bradley.
Well, Scott Bradley was in
Scott and Todd.
Yeah, but I mean, because I was in a band with Scott. With,
you were
a wedding band. We were in the. Oh my God, I can't even think of the name now. It'll come to me.
Okay,
but,
no problem.
But we used to do the Genesee Valley Club and.
Listen, that's great. Listen, they were all young.
Yeah.
And they're still in touch with me, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I just love that band, the Essentials.
And I remember I found an Essentials album at Record Archive, and it's Silver Saddle Hotel.
Isn't that amazing?
I remember telling Greg said it was like one of the first songs he ever wrote. And this is one of the first songs you ever wrote?
No kidding. You know what? It really, it's very exciting. I know that people like to hear about some of the people I had at Jazzberries, and I'm going to tell you something else that I'm very proud of. Do you want to hear it?
Of course. That's why you're
David
here.
Ripton, and may he rest in peace, passed away recently. And I'll never forget the evening. I was at Jazzberries Uptown, 50 East Avenue, and he said to me, I went to Buffalo, and I heard this artist that blew me away, and you've got to hear her. My car is down the street, and I want you to come and listen. So I walked outside, went down the street, got in the car, and who was playing? Ani DeFranco.
Oh, wow.
So let me tell you the story.
Yeah.
I said, I listened to her, and within 1 minute I said, book her. Book her, she's unbelievable. She blew me away. So she was from Buffalo.
Right. Yeah.
She had a agent, and they came to Jazzberries. She had a cousin living in Rochester. The place was packed. And subsequently, years later, she wrote in her memoir about me.
Oh, wow.
She said, Susan Plunkett and Jazzberries changed my life.
How beautiful is that?
She said, everybody went crazy over my stuff and bought so many CDs. I started making money for the first time, and Susan Plunkett was so nice to me, I'll never forget her. And let me tell you something. I have read that line many, many times.
I'll bet.
But you know what? That's a lot to take in. Boy, I'll tell you, that is...
You helped somebody get farther and all that, and that's a wonderful thing.
And they appreciate it, too, which is awesome, too.
You knew she was going to make it big.
Right.
Anytime she came to Jazzberry, she packed that place.
Wow.
You know how popular she still is?
Oh, yeah.
She has a phenomenal fan base. And people can't even get tickets to some of her stuff, I see.
Yeah.
And I just can't get over. She is unbelievable. She was a 19, 20-year-old kid.
Right.
And now she's got to be a lot older, and she's still going at it. And
sure.
But anyhow, that's a lot to be proud of.
I think she does a lot for her area, too. Which is
I have a weird question.
No, you...
well, I might not be able to answer it, but I'm listening.
This is kind of like a fly-on-the-wall question. So... was the city easier to deal with back then than it is now? Permits and stuff like that.
Well, we started the East End, didn't we?
Yeah.
We started the East End Festival.
Yep.
We had bands playing on the stages all over the place. Look at that. The International Jazz Festival is doing these things, and we started and you know the interesting part about it. When I was a kid, my father had a store downtown, and the downtown area was very viable.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Way.
I remember when I was a kid.
And it is very different now.
Oh, yeah.
But by creating different areas, people come to the events.
Right.
And the East End Festival packed the place.
Oh, I used to go all the time because I used to work at Chase. So we just walked out the door.
Right.
And
I love
Did you?
because of working at a
that's
bar.
so cool.
Because you get a lot of money, but you'd be dying at the end.
Yeah, we worked in a tower.
Oh, that's fantastic. So anyhow, the city was always very happy because we created a place where people came to all these events all the time.
Right.
And people on all the different venues would sell food outside, and then everybody started learning about the East End. And any single time they had a festival, it was busy.
Yeah. I still have a friend that has a hot dog cart in front of the courthouse.
That's right.
To this day.
That's right. Okay, so that's fantastic. But the point is that the city was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Bob Phillips worked for Jane Plitt, and they were hired by the city to create something down in our area. So we would meet often, and then we named the East End. We named it the East End. And it was important to the city because I think that the downtown area was so sparse that creating different areas in the city were really important.
It is.
Do you notice when there's an event how many people come down there?
Yep.
But you never see that many people there all the time.
I know.
But now look at Sibley's building.
Yeah.
They're creating a place that is making more people come downtown.
Right.
You have to create. You have to change.
Yeah.
Look, nowadays we have social media. Look how easy it is to get publicity anywhere.
Right. Yep.
And back then, you had to work hard for it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I think the opposite problem, though, sometimes is just too much on social media.
Well, that's very... Oh, listen, anytime you have something good, you have the opposite. Yeah. So,
well, I guess I just was asking because I wonder if it's as easy now to do something in the city as it was then, or do you have to go through more committees and more...
I think there. I mean, look, there's a lot of different things that are happening in the city. International Jazz Festival, the Fringe Festival. I mean, I think if anybody that wants to create something and puts the energy into it can create something very interesting.
Carnival Fest 2027.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I have to ask this question in honor of our good friend Baron von Litvak. I mentioned it to you before. How was Johnny Thunders?
Well, Johnny Thunder, sadly, died 2 weeks after he played at Jazzberries.
Oh, man.
And I don't know how somebody convinced me to have him there, but he was a goner in terms of drugs, and that was very sad. But let me tell you something. I put him on the stage, and he was fantastic, and the crowd went crazy.
It was like an acoustic show, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the crowd went crazy. The crowd loved him, and so, I was very sad, but it was inevitable because he was such a junkie, and that was very sad.
It's actually good. What were some of the most interesting characters you dealt with in terms of like national musicians? Any good stories or just
Odetta? Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Odetta, legendary Odetta. Absolutely could hear a pin drop at Jazzberries. Demanded the most quiet concert I've ever had at Jazzberries. Picked her up 5 minutes early, she would have a fit. She was so precise.
No hooting and hollering allowed. And
she demanded, her presence demanded the quiet, and she got it. It was absolutely breathtaking concert. The reviews were superb. Luckily, I was very lucky to be able to take her out to dinner afterwards. I remember that I said, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to take her out to eat after she did the show. And she told me, and I always remember this line. She said, what did she say? She said something about you could hear my mother always made me feel as though there was a pin on my head. She was very, 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 very interesting. We had a great time, and I felt so happy that this was the gift of owning Jazzberries, that here I am sitting here having dinner with Odetta. I thought that was very cool. That was a very, very memorable.
It would have been a little bit ironic if she said, I want to try one of those garbage plates.
Yeah.
And I think it goes a little bit. I talked about
she was classy.
I talked about this on the show, like growing up. Like some of the musicians I really like growing up, like I know them now. Or I have friends who played with them. And there's just something about that. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yep, I understand. Yep. All right. So listen, a few more people I would like to tell you. Singer-songwriters.
Okay.
When you think of singer-songwriters, I'll tell you who is a few of them at Jazzberries.
Yeah.
Rick Danko.
Oh, wow.
Eric Anderson.
Yeah.
Loudon Wainwright.
Damn.
Who would hate me because one of my friends, my good friend Kathy, always goes, you don't call him Loudon. I pronounced his name wrong.
Right. I mean, really, John Hyatt.
Oh, really?
It went crazy. John Hyatt came to the first Jazzberries, and he wrote in a magazine in England, I have never had a crowd go so crazy as a little place in Rochester, New York.
Wow.
And that was Jazzberries.
That is so great. You have a great legacy. I
never
really realized.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, like if I was like a musician and I had the cash, you get like the Stones now. Your other hero besides Billy, they're Taylor Swift. Wink.
Yeah.
but that's our little running joke. But they play these stadiums. I think a lot of them deep down, like Keith Richards would be like if I could do that, come into a club and play for 300 people. That's why I like that El Mucambo live album's like one of the best live albums I've in a long time because they just went to a little club.
You know what? I'm talking about little club. I want to tell you something. My club, Jazzberries Uptown, 50 East Avenue. The people from New York City came to look at my club because they heard about its reputation, and wanted a place where musicians like Wynton Marsalis, which they would have let him come to my shop, believe it or not, like to play in small, intimate clubs of 300.
Did you have a sound system and all that stuff? Or?
I'm going to tell you about that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Dave Burness ran the sound system.
Okay.
Every day, he would get paid by the bands to run the sound system.
Ah.
He had a booth at Jazzberries and lots of equipment and was really good at it. He had lots of good tapes and records that he had.
Wow.
He passed away too early in life, but he was very important to Jazzberries. Listen, let's face it, good sound system absolutely integral.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
that's why I figured you would.
I'm not going to mention where it was or anything, but I saw a show of somebody I really wanted to see, and I finally did. And some of my friends are like, "Wow, it was really great." The sound was horrible. This would have ruined it.
No,
for me.
there's no doubt about. Well, I'll tell you something else. Jazzberries was in the position to be near the Eastman School of Music.
Yeah.
So therefore, I want to tell you about something. They came to me to ask me to do a conference, trombone conference.
Wow.
I was so excited, I had to contain myself. Curtis Fuller, fantastic trombone player, was going to be the headliner for their trombone conference. They were going to have all the top-notch trombone players, a lot of players from the United States. Spider Wilcox was in his 80s, many, many trombone players. And they were going to have a conference, and they asked me to sponsor it. Are you kidding me? I'd be more than happy to do that.
Let me think about that. Okay.
And it was absolutely fantastic. I am so proud of it. And you know Bob Schneider, the guitar player, I'm sure you know him.
Right. Yeah.
His brother John, do you know him?
No, I know Bob.
I know the name. That's
John Schneider is a fabulous trumpet player. I hear from him often, and I say to him every time, John, I'll never forget when you played at the trombone conference. I remember Clifford. Do you know that tune?
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite jazz songs, and he played that so beautifully. I have never forgotten it, and I just wrote to him, and he always thanks me so much. So the trombone conference was really another highlight. See, there are certain things that I got to tell you were a highlight, and that was a highlight. Of course, sure. I mean, that was, and not only that, but I had a lot of people that played during, lunch, and a lot of the Eastman students.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And also Jazzberries was a place that a lot of people came that they would bring for lunch. Phil Woods, the alto player came. Rayburn Wright was there, and Jeff Tyzak brought Doc Summerson over to my club. He drank carrot juice, so that's why he's still in his 90s. He drank carrot juice.
I love
it was very healthy.
Doc, I remember you drank carrot juice. You remember that?
What's interesting is that because I had a club and because I had a name, I got to tell you about an event I had that wasn't at Jazzberries, but because I owned Jazzberries, I was asked to do a dinner over at Nancy Sibley's house, where BOA is a place where they have people that are writers, and they gave them some awards, and they asked me to do a dinner for George Plimpton and Dorothy Dorothy Kilgar. I can never pronounce her name correctly. And George Plimpton, I just couldn't believe I met him. And W.D. Snodgrass and Carolyn Kaiser, the Pulitzer Prize winner. It was like unbelievable. I made food for them, and it's because I owned Jazzberries, because I was popular. Yeah. So people wanted me. And Lynn Schur, she was a 2020 reporter, and I made a vegetarian meal for her because she was a vegetarian. So there was a lot of people that I met.
Wow, I guess
I wrote to Plimpton one time, and I said, out of all your writing, I just thought your love of fireworks, that essay was so good. He wrote back to me.
Oh, my God.
I was going to say, hey, dude, I saw you on those in television ads, too, and everything. But there's a difference between supporting music and being a musician. At the time when you were talking about trombones, I remember talking to my good friend Mark Bradley one time, and I go, I really dig Miles Davis. He's a good horns player. He looked at me, he played trumpet. I'm like, well, excuse me.
Oh, that's great.
Last time I checked, the trumpet was a horn. I don't know.
Oh, you can get into it when it's on.
I know what he meant.
Yeah, I do too. But I think also there's a thrill too of, hey, I remember when I saw so and so at Jazzberries, and look at what they are now. There's a story.
Oh, I know. That's what I look at. I like mentioning all the people. The Tubes.
I don't think we have time to mention.
You remember the Tubes?
Yeah.
Oh, Fee Wayville.
Wow.
They really did. I didn't know that band, and someone said, get the Tubes.
I just listened to their live album yesterday.
How were they?
It was just a live album I had. It's just sitting around in my collection. I want to hear this because I buy all these records records and never listened to them hardly. You know what I mean?
I do after like a year.
Yeah, but it was really good, man. He was like talking to the crowd and saying all kinds of
It's
stuff.
like I remember when though, because I remember somebody told me a story about Jazz Fest.
That's amazing. Man.
Where somebody no-showed and there was this guy. He came on. And he played for 4 hours. It was John Mayer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they got to see him. And then you go. I remember when.
See, you seem to have the ability to like spot stuff like innovation and things. I mean,
you know, I'm happy that I was. I can't believe, you know, I can't believe that I accomplished this. I say this all the time. I can't believe that person came to Jazzberries. I can't believe that I did that, and I wasn't that old, and I was still good at that. You know,
right.
I had Rosemary Clooney booked at Jazzberries, but I had to close. They closed me basically, but I had her booked. I had Tommy Flanagan, the piano player, Gary Burton, the vibe player. I had him. You know, I had him booked, but I closed. But I'm always very proud of all that stuff. I'm going to tell you a few more people that I had there.
Yeah, please.
Local Joe Locke. You know him?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know Joe.
Absolutely brilliant vibe player. I love him because he keeps changing what he's doing. He might be with a singer. He might add somebody else and some other kind of instrumentalist. I mean, he was such a very wonderful person, and he always was doing something different. So that was a terrific show. But I want to tell you something. As a jazzer, there is nothing that makes me go so crazy as the organ, the B3.
Oh, I love that.
The B3 makes me jump up and just can't sit still.
Who's the guy from Buffalo that's the big keyboard guy?
Who is the one for Buffalo? I have to think. I tell you who was at Jazzberries, the B3. Jack McDuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Saw him at the Pith Eye when I was 18, 19, 20 years old.
The Pith, that's one of the show on
that
the
you could do it. Oh, you could do 10
My
shows.
brother saw Muddy Waters, and the funny part was he goes, there's a band playing Muddy's up with women at the bar for 4 songs before we went on.
That's right.
That's great.
Dr. Lonnie Smith.
Oh.
He was at Jazzberries a lot and used to call me Mrs. Jazzberry. And I loved it. I went to see him at the Eastman, and I went out of my mind. He was so good. Charles Erlin went to the Pith Eye, played at Jazzberries, came in for lunch, sat down and played the organ, B3 for the lunch crowd. I never forgot that.
Di Francesco, I think that's his name.
No, Joey G. Francisco. He passed away a bunch of years
I'm
ago. He was on the scene afterwards.
Oh, okay.
He was fantastic. There's no doubt.
And I think this is just all about, like the old cliche about following your dreams. But you might not make it now. But if you try, and you're really sincere.
I think you should always try. Go for it.
Because you got one life, you might as well do it.
Well, you know what? If you're going to try, you got to remember you might have to pay it back. But it was worth every penny. You know what? I didn't make it, but I made it.
Yeah.
See, I didn't make any money, and I went out of business, but. As far as I'm concerned, I made it big.
And you have in memory, you're always going to live with it.
Well, I paid back a lot of money, and I have that. How many people can say what they accomplished, what I accomplished? I mean, I can hardly believe it.
Right.
I mean, it's a vision that I had, and I made it work. Even though I didn't make any money, I made it work. And I want to say this to the crowd, anybody that's listening to this, you got a great idea, go for it. You need some help, give me a call. I'll leave my number.
Just not those green, not those green whoppers.
Yeah.
But now we're going to shift gears because you are not done. You were doing your catering. Do you have a catering business now?
Susan Plunkett's Fabulous Food at the Regional Market, Building 804. I'm still working hard. I have a lot of. I have the AAUW. I have the University of Rochester RIT. I'm working hard, and you know what? I'll tell you something about food.
I know a little
about food. It's an infinity.
Food.
There's no end to it. There's no end to what you can learn.
Right.
And the way that I look at it is I'm going to keep learning till the day I die. And I just find food so fascinating, and all these different cuisines are so incredible how much you can create. Now, I feel every single night I sit down for dinner, I say, Susan Plunkett, you picked the right profession.
Yeah.
Susan Plunkett, you are so lucky that you can eat what you want. Isn't this absolutely fantastic? I feel that way, though. I feel that way. I mean,
I would.
I feel that way every single day. That I feel so excited that I love cooking. I'm tired, but I never get sick of cooking. I never get sick of
You
cooking.
explain where is the regional market for people who might not know where it is?
900 Jefferson Road.
Okay.
And Lori's Natural Food is over there, and Niblex is over there, and Palmer's over there.
Was that called Tadco at one time, I think?
Yes, Tadco is still there. Tadco is still there. They have a
Palmer's Fish.
Palmer's Fish Market is still there.
Are you a
Cheesy
combo?
Eddie.
Are you a combo restaurant and wholesale or something?
Nope. All we are is a catering service.
Oh, catering. Okay.
We're a catering service, and we cater to each job that we have. So, it's nerve-wracking. You know what? I know that you have to have some element of nerves to make it in any business or be a singer, whatever. You have to do a good job. Nervousness comes with it.
Oh, yeah.
But it helps if you're a drummer. If they throw stuff at you, you're at least got something in front of you.
That gets me going.
At Adco, I made harissa, and I got bird's eye peppers. Well, it seems like I think about hot foods and stuff.
Oh, you got that was too hot?
It was.
It seemed like it would have been too hot.
Yeah, it was too hot.
Take out the seeds of, if you took out, so you had dried peppers though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, dried peppers are my favorite ingredient of any food. Dried peppers are my favorite food. Why? Because they translate to delicious sauces of Mexican food, and there's nothing better.
Chipotles, especially.
Well, every single pepper has a different flavor,
right?
And that creates a pipián sauce, which is without the chocolate, and then it creates the mole, and I just love making that.
That's the one year.
Wow.
I made Mexican.
Like
I made Mexican pepper soup for Christmas.
Oh, good.
And it was one of those though where it came out absolutely perfect.
Color
taste, so I could ever repeat it.
Did you use dried or did you use fresh? Poblano peppers?
Yeah.
Did you use poblano peppers are called ancho in a dried pepper, and I love those. There's pasilla, there's all these different flavors. Each one translates itself to a delicious flavor. So that's great.
By the way, too, harissa is like sort of an African salsa for any of those.
What did you eat it on?
Whatever, probably crackers or something.
Yeah, well, crackers are perfect.
This was a long time ago.
It has caraway seeds in
What's
it.
been Triscuits?
Well, it's fun to try different things. It really is.
Yeah, go on.
I get calls all the time saying, "Can you help me with my food? Can you tell me what I should do?" And I say, "Sure, what do you want to know?"
Right.
And that's fun to do,
Of course.
I don't find myself an expert in anything, but I know a little bit about as much as I can.
That's what I try to do. I try to know a little bit about everything.
That's
which is good for this.
Right, yeah.
It's like, Greg, what are we going to talk about this week? Sewer systems in Utica for an hour.
We're lucky that we have a lot of ethnic restaurants in Rochester.
Oh, I love that.
We never used to, but we really have a lot of places that are fun.
Yep.
And that's what I like best to go to. Restaurants that have different flavors.
I see a lot of cool ones. I go, I gotta check that out.
I want to try shawarma still. There's like Lebanese.
Where is that now?
I think it's by, what do they call it now, by U of R, where they have the stretch College Town.
College Town.
So I was going to ask you, before you go on with these, what would be, and we never do absolutes here, but in terms of for you, maybe a band or for food, what would be some of your top fives for food or your own preference of music like a band?
I mean, what type of foods do I like?
Yeah, just not
I
number one.
I think number one, Mexican food. Mexican food is my favorite. I love eating Mexican food because I grow my own tomatillas. So in my freezer, I have 30 to 35 pints or quarts of tomatilla salsa.
Holy crap.
I also make, because of those peppers that are in my garage, I take and I create all these sauces made with my dried peppers, pepita nuts, cashews, cinnamon, allspice, tomato, cilantro, onion, garlic, olive oil, chicken broth, vegetable broth. So I create all these sauces that I put on enchiladas. And I always have certain things in my refrigerator that I have. I always have corn tortillas, flour tortillas, cilantro. They're cumin. Those are my favorite things. Mexican food is my favorite.
That's awesome.
And it's interesting. Everybody loves. I love all different kinds of food, but I love Mexican the best. How about you? What do you like best?
Sushi.
I had sushi yesterday.
I love the Mexican food's right up there.
So do you go to different places in Rochester?
Yeah, I've been going to Sumo lately.
Where is that now?
That's right, like on Ridge, because it's close to home.
Oh, good. Okay,
and I order the chirashi. By the time I get there, it's ready.
All right, good.
But one of the funniest was going to the Arrogata for all you can because the chef was so funny. You're not eating enough. You're not eating enough.
That's great.
I had already a dream concert for Jazzberries that did happen, but I'm not saying you didn't have everything. But you know what? For me, if Tom Waits had played there,
you know what? I got to tell you something.
If he didn't, I didn't know. Don't tell me.
No, he didn't play there. But I say to myself, who would I have at Jazzberries if I could have anybody?
That man here.
You know what? I do say that. I used to say to myself, who would I have at Jazzberries? Because if I could have them, and that was Tom Waits was one person that I would have put on my list.
I used to live in Alexandria, so he played the Strathallan. And I was home.
Wow.
And now you got to remember at the time, for concert tickets, you didn't think they were like $75 in time ago. I would have paid it, but I didn't know. So my friend and I went looking for them. I guarantee it's like the story about the Pogues with them, where they were looking for the master in the bar, and he turned into bed at 9. We never saw him. But that was, it was fun. I never saw him, and I don't think he tours much anymore.
No, I never. There are certain people that were just too expensive. But I got to tell you a good little story, because we're probably going to be near the end of the show. Dizzy Gillespie, 6 months after having Jazzberries Uptown, Spider Martin came to Jazz and said to me, "How would you like to have Dizzy Gillespie? He owes me a favor." I said, "What, are you joking me?" I said, you call him right up. He calls him right up. I got him 6 months after opening Jazzberries. He comes to my shop in October.
Oh, cool.
Unbelievable. So anyhow, I have to pay him $11,000 for the 4 shows that he has. $11,000.
Wow.
Tickets were $20. Can you imagine that nowadays? They're like $150.
Oh, I used to have tantrums when the warm water went up to 17.
So anyhow, so I have 4 shows. I have a press conference from the DNC. He was like a clown, that Dizzy Gillespie. Made me laugh so much. So it comes time to pay him. I said, "Meet me in the kitchen." I stuffed $11,000. I don't know how I just stuffed $11,000 in my pocket and paid him in cash.
Wow.
I remember counting it out in the kitchen.
Damn.
It was such a great story. He was absolutely phenomenal. We had the best time. Oh my God. He was a riot. I'll tell you something. Not only did he come once, he came again.
Wow.
And the Mangione, came to Jazzberries. We're sitting in the audience. Oh my God!
Right.
And Gap Mangione and Bob Stata and Rich Thompson were played the trio, and I rented a Steinway, and oh my God! I tell you, and you know what? I sang "You Go to My Head" in the key of G. And I was so nervous, but I did it, and I'm so happy that I did it. I just can't even begin to tell you how excited I was. I'm listening, and there's Dizzy Gillespie and Spider Martin playing that. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm singing at Jazzberries. Dizzy.
That's amazing.
I mean, that was amazing.
That is amazing.
I don't know how I did it. I was so exhausted. I was so tired because it was like 12 hours later, but I'm telling you, that was fabulous. I was able to introduce all the different bands.
Right.
Buddy Guy. Here he is, the most incredible guitar player in the United States at Jazzberries Uptown. Here he comes, Buddy Guy.
Right.
Buddy Guy. Oh my God, I would say. That was a thrill.
I love him.
There are some people I admit, like I see, and I just go, "Wow, I'm glad I saw him." This was in the Jazz. He was at the Jazz Fest, but Mose Allison for me was.
He was at my shop,
Oh, he was.
Mose Allison came to the first Jazzberries, and he said to me, "I got it down to a science." He said, "I got music down to a science." Sold out crowd.
Wow.
John Hammond came all the time.
Yeah.
Jazzberries 1 and Jazzberries 2 came all the time. John Hammond, fabulous singer. The agents, I didn't mention this. I got a lot of calls from a lot of agents.
Sure.
And I want to tell you something that's interesting. I'm glad I thought of it. How do you book somebody and not worry about losing a lot of money? Well, it ain't easy. If you lose a lot of money, you got to come up with the money, and if you don't bring the crowd in, you got to come up with the money to pay the band, and it ain't easy.
Right.
That Abby Lincoln, she says you got to pay the band, and you got to pay the band, so it was never easy. I had to think really carefully, who is going to sell out?
Right.
How am I going to make it here? If you don't sell out, you got to come up with 1,000, 2,000, and where's the money coming from?
Right.
You don't have a lot of money.
Right.
That's the big problem. No money.
Sure.
That's what kills you. That's why the bands, you can never have enough money. So basically, I had to really think who's going to sell out. Leo Cocky sold out.
Wow.
Guitar player, unbelievable. Sold right out. Leon Russell, his agent came and said, Leon is not feeling good. He might not make it. I says, you tell that Leo he better be, Leon Russell. I said, you tell him he better be here. I did. And he came.
And I remember seeing Dave Alvin. I saw him.
That's right. He called me up.
He was sick at one show. I went. This was.
That's right. David Alvin.
Really
right.
Sick, and he played.
And the Blasters. And they call. And you know what?
I love them. Yeah.
Different people would call me up and say, Susan, I'm coming to town. I say, you got a gig, boy.
Yeah.
You got a gig.
Good
No
for
problem.
you.
There are different people that Eugene Chadwick, come on, you play anytime you want to. And so David Elvin would call up and say, I'd like to play. I said, you got it. So different people called me all the time. The agents called me all the time.
Right.
So here's what I had to do. I had to negotiate with them. And this is what you do. For all you people wanting to start a club, you find an artist that's coming to the area. They're going to Chicago. They're going to Ohio. They're going to Buffalo. Then they're coming to Rochester. Cheaper.
Right.
You don't have to fly them from California.
Right.
Diana Shore, Diane Shore, I had to fly her from California.
Wow.
I had to pay for her and her agent.
Sure.
Had to put them in the
that
hotel.
Makes sense. You
had to put them in the hotel.
Yeah.
Not a shoddy hotel.
Right.
So I had to all these things I had to think about.
You had to be aware of the itinerary.
Rent the piano, put them in a hotel, pay for the plane ticket. I don't like that.
Right.
I don't mind paying for the hotel. I don't mind getting the piano, but paying for the ticket.
Sure.
Find somebody that's coming to Chicago. Find somebody that's stopping in the Lafayette Inn in Buffalo. Now they're coming to Rochester. Buddy guy, he's going to Chicago, then he's going to Buffalo. I'll take him.
Right.
How about if you sell out, you give me an extra $500? You got it. You got it, Rosebuds. You got it. You know, so different agents would call me all the time. Do you want to have so-and-so at my club? Doug Curry, you remember him?
Oh, Doug, yes.
Doug Curry, good guy to have. Did you ever have him on the show?
No, I tried to, but he's been busy all the time.
Busy selling cars.
Well, he's always talked about, like, we used to go to Empire Comics, we used to talk about Zap Comics.
Yeah. That's right.
He's still doing Blacks and Blues, isn't he?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, he would help me bring people, Robert Lockwood Jr., Ronnie Earl of the broadcasters. I mean, Eddie Shaw. He had a guy named Plunkett in his band, and he always used to tease me. But anyhow, I had a lot. You know, you look at the blues. There's a lot of different types of blues. Clarence Gatemouth Brown, he tore the house up. He loved his stuff, and people used to go get it for him. You know, he liked to get high, and he was a riot, and he was fun, and he tore the house up.
Wow.
I mean, there's the Texas blues and the Delta blues.
Right.
Jesse May Hemphill, fantastic slide guitarist. Oh my God, we had things and people at Jazzberries. Oh my gosh, I tell you, it's unbelievable how many people we had there.
You know what I would think of too, and I would like reach out sometimes, because like Rob Zombie played at Water Street, but he's touring with Ozzy just because he liked playing little clubs.
That's right.
Like he would hop around.
That's right. Like look, Victor Wooten, Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. Danny Deutsch brought him into Jazzberries.
I think Danny's trying to do a little bit what you're doing in terms of booking acts too.
But he knows his stuff. He is so good.
He's introduced me to some different.
He was going to bring Tori Amos. I'm sorry, we never got her.
He had that guy Whammo on it.
Whammo? My God!
I played behind. I played
did
with
you
him.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
That guy was all right. We're just going to do a swing and then just like he just start riffing and say, yeah, he was amazing.
Wow, it's amazing how many people I can't even believe it. I mean, I had so many. I mean, Leon Russell was fabulous.
We should just have a show for an hour where you don't do anything, but you name all the...
It's on my website. It tells you Jazzberry Uptown, all the people played there. You know, I'm going to tell you some of the jazz people I had there. Herb Ellis. swinging guitar player. I see him playing in Sweden with Ella Fitzgerald. I go, man, he was at Jazzberries. Mark Whitfield. I saw Mark Whitfield. He played at Jazzberries, and he was in his 20s. I saw him 30 years later, and he was a whole different person. He came into Jazzberries all dressed in the same outfit, and it was such a ride. I said, you were such a punk back then, and look at you now. We had so much fun. Diane Shore, unbelievable talent. That was absolutely fantastic. Hugh Masekela. Wow. I had Hugh Masekela 2 shows. He had people that he knew here in town, so I got him near the end of Jazzberries. Albert Collins, last show I had Albert Collins.
Man.
Oh, wow.
Last show, the Roaches, you know the Roaches?
Yeah.
I had them. They were unbelievable. I love the Roaches. Oh my God. Going back to the Jazzers. Joe Romano. Do you know him?
Oh yeah.
Vaguely.
You know, Joe Romano, I used to go to the lounge on State Street, and they had the best. They had Sammy Noto, Joe Romano. They had such good people playing there. It's just mind-blowing to me how many people that were there.
Now Albert Collins snow cones in my head. So.
That's right. So, you know, okay, then let me tell you a little bit about some singers. Besides Dan Shore, I had Sheila Jordan, and I took lessons from her at the Vermont Jazz Center. Rosanna Vitro, still in touch with her. She's a jazz singer. Mark Murphy, unbelievable show.
Right.
Played with Gant Mangione, and he wrote to me and said, I'd love to do a show. I'd love to do a recording at your place, but I closed. But that made me feel really happy. So I'm telling you, Claude Bowling, he's another one I had at my place. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Oh, that's quite the who's who.
Oh, my God. You know what? I love that word, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a great word. I don't even know if you could say it again. That was an unbelievable show. I mean, there was, I just can't get over it. I can't get over all the people I had here. You know, I tried to write down as many as I could think of. And I did a pretty good job of doing that. But, you know, the thing is, if you had an idea, Jazzberries was a place for you. If you had a talent, I did a lot of shows for a lot of young people, and it was their first gig. I did a lot of things that were people's first time I've ever played.
Right.
And, you know,
that's awesome.
All the time I hear from people, the Dady brothers, John and Joe Dady. And Joe Dady passed away. On Tuesday nights, starting at 8 o'clock, they had an open mic. They started out and sang some tunes, and people came and did their thing. They signed up. And they said it was the first time they got their start.
Wow.
Was at Jazzberries. Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you for making my life better.
Yep.
Thank you for giving me a chance. It was such an important day, Tuesdays, for $2 at the door. And you didn't have to drink. You didn't have to buy anything. You could listen to music. The people from Jiva Theater came over. Josh Brolin did his poetry at the open mic.
Wow.
Anthony Zerbe was an actor, came to Jazz
Right.
Oh, I
all the
remember
time.
him well.
Marianne Plunkett. I remember people from the Jiva coming to Jazzberries and having a good time. So it was a showcase in the city.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, so the city was good to me.
Yeah.
A lot of publicity, you know.
Right.
I mean, I used to get written up all the time. I was good at it.
Yeah.
I never let them say anything terrible about me because I knew how to talk to the media.
Yeah.
I always knew what to say and what to tell them so that they could never write anything terrible about me because they usually take the worst possible thing you could think of.
Yeah.
Well, I know, like, who are those two weirdos?
Yeah.
So basically, I really got a lot. I got a lot from the city. I really did. I mean, they were happy I was there. They have a lot of respect for me, and they were always very good to me. And as I said, the media was very good to me. I got so much free press all the time. Yeah, I mean, it was very exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you something. Nerve-wracking, absolutely, because you had to come up with an incredible amount of money or you couldn't make it. So
Right.
I tell you something, it ain't for the faint of heart. I'll tell you something, you need a lot of money, and anybody in their right mind would never have started a club. But I had to do it, and let me tell you something. Again, as I repeat, I didn't make any money, but I had the best time of my life.
Right.
I can't think of anything better. I mean, that is the most exciting thing that I've ever done.
You did a lot for a lot of people, though. I mean,
well, that's, you know
and
what?
yourself.
And they're still telling me that.
Yeah.
The nice part about it is I don't have to wait till I'm dead to hear about all these things.
Right.
That's a good line, isn't it? Though I don't have to. I always know how much
couldn't
people.
wait any longer.
I have a lot of respect from a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what? It makes me very happy. I know all these things before I leave this earth, and I always feel that I really, really got the most out of life. You know, I feel very happy about that. That I created something that nobody else has done. I mean, if you look at all the places in Rochester, what can you think of that did as many creative things as I really have accomplished?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I feel very, very excited about
picturing
that.
in my head if this was like a comedy film, be like a bar owner. Well, I had the Eagles cover band, and there's nothing wrong with it. What have you ever had?
Right. Yeah.
No, but I'm thinking again, like, this has been really actually an honor, too. And I'm thinking, when I was this little kid going to your club,
Oh, thank you.
how would I know one day in the future?
That's right.
I won't age at all, but we would have you
That's
on
right.
the show. And I know a lot of these people you've had on.
I'm super
Yeah.
impressed because I didn't know a lot of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, listen, it's
I was gone for like a lot of the 80s. I came
You're
back
gone
in-
still today. Like I am.
yeah,
too.
look, you know, look at
I was gone for the 90s.
Look at, I mean, I had, look at Mamas and Papas. There's another one that's
Oh,
popping.
yeah.
See, now that I'm sitting here, all of a sudden my brain starts throwing out in the Mamas and Papas. Scott McKenzie. I'm going to San Francisco.
Right.
The Phillips were there. Spanky McFarland, remember her?
Oh, yeah.
I met those guys.
They were jazzberries.
I played in
Spanky and Harvey,
Atlantic
right?
City,
Right.
and I got introduced to them.
Wow, they came to jazzberries.
Wow.
And see, the Mamas and Papas, they recreated themselves.
Yeah,
That crowd went crazy.
they went more electric, and
They went crazy over that band.
Yeah.
They did all their tunes, and they went nuts.
Yep.
That was a great show. It was a great show. Oh my God!
I'll tell you a quick funny story because I know we got
I like
to
good
wrap
fun.
it up. So I got introduced to Mamas and the Papas because I was in Atlantic City, and Gary Puckett was playing, so I met him and all this stuff. So his guitar player, hey, you want to meet the Mamas and the Papas? So we walk over to another hotel where they were. Spanky McFarland opens the door, hey, and she's all happy,
wow.
and I'll come to joints, and
That's
you know,
great.
we had a good time. But when you meet these people, it's just like, hey, you're just meeting people on the road.
Yeah, I've
and then-
learned that
That's
now
right.
over all these years.
and it's not that big star thing, and it's just they're just cool people.
Listen, I couldn't act like it. I had to be cool.
Yeah.
I had to be very, very cool. And you know what? I forgot somebody very big.
Okay.
I just remembered now. I don't know what made me think of it. Mr. Sun Ra.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
2 shows, jazzberries, unbelievable. Every single member of that band, I sat them down and I gave them a meal, and they were absolutely fantastic, and that music blew me away. Now, he came to Jazzberries more than once. The second time he came to Jazzberries, he had experienced a stroke, and he only played with his left hand,
Right.
but he came.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I was very impressed with his band. He had his ethereal music from another planet, and then he would have a singer do a lot of the standards. Remember that, how he used to do that? That fascinated me. I loved what he did with all this. I loved his music. He was just absolutely one of the best things I've ever seen in my life, too. And then he had a singer who would do some of the classic singing, but in their own style and his style. Unbelievable. That was absolutely a phenomenal two evenings.
I would have loved to have seen that.
That was
And I'm sure, like, after we do this, you'll go, I remember 20 more now.
No, I think I'm doing it. You know what? I'm going to look really carefully.
Well, I'll tell a quick story first.
Well, you know what?
Wrap up.
I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
I think
okay,
so.
Zydeco. You know Zydeco?
Yep.
Buckwheat Zydeco.
Right.
J.J. Senior.
Yep.
Okay, a big crowd. Bruce Handelman would used to come in. We took the tables, we put them out of there, and everybody used to dance, and they had a blast.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Bluegrass.
Yep.
A lot of bluegrass people were there. Vassar Clement. I mean, I look and I go, oh my God, they were. I look at TV and I go, oh my God, he was at Jazzberries. Can you believe that? I mean, I'm trying to get it all in because there was.
I was thinking the moment for me when I just realized like musicians were just people was I met Saxon at the House of Guitars.
Right.
I'm trying to talk to Bifford. Go, Mr. Bifford, watch the skies is great. You know, he's going, the marker's foot. But this has been great having you on.
Well, I'll tell you something. Of course, I always get a little nervous when I'm doing anything like this. But the thing is, it's very, very inside of me all the time. So it's not difficult for me to talk about it.
And I think we're not like really intimidating.
You're not intimidating people. And you know what? It's something that's always going to be with me, and it's very easy for me to talk about it.
It's not 60 minutes,
Yeah, I'm looking at my.
We don't have our gotchas.
I'm looking at my phone.
But check this musician.
Reggae was something I didn't mention.
Oh, wow.
That was quite a crowd, and the Itels were there.
And that was newer when reggae.
We had the Itels, and that was a sold out show. I'm looking through my stuff here just to get it all in. Oh, I will tell you another story. You ever hear? This is a band you might not have ever heard of, but this is back in the 80s. Western Wind. Do you ever hear of Western Wind?
No.
They came into Jazzberry. They were called the Western Wind, and I can never pronounce the movie, the Koya. I can't pronounce it correctly. So anyhow, they came to Jazzberries, and they was going to be here in town. They had a conference, and somebody said, "Look, we'll fill the place up." So we filled the place up, and they sold right out. And the next day they came for lunch. I invited them to lunch at somebody's birthday, and they all got up and sang to Happy Birthday in their a cappella, all the different levels. I'll never forget that day. I'm just saying. Oh, Gap Mangione played there a lot. I'm looking through my stuff here because I'm getting it all in as I can.
Well, we want to get in too. How can get a hold of you for catering if they want to do services?
Susan,
it sounds like it's going to be really good if you think.
Susan Plunkett, 957-1133. Susan Plunkett's Fabulous Foods, 900 Jefferson Road.
And you're online and everything.
Yes, I got my website. I got everything. I got my Jazzberries Uptown Facebook page. I got my Susan Plunkett. I think I got. I think I did a good job. I think I did a good job of getting it all in because I had so many people there, and I think So basically, I still hear from people, as I said, that say to me, "Thank you so much for making my life better."
Well, thank you so much for being on.
You have an incredible amount of energy and vision. I got to tell you that.
Speaking of always busy
impressed.
too, what's coming up for you? You, the man who never sleeps for gigs.
Me? Let's see. Playing at the Bug Jar on the 22nd.
Okay.
With Cupid's Boomerang.
Is it 24th or 22nd?
I should invite you.
Yeah, please.
Is that the 24th or 22nd? I saw the invite.
22nd, I'm thinking.
I'm like the worst.
We're playing with the John Payton Project.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And the Spiders or some
Electric Spiders.
Electric Spiders.
Oh, I love all these names.
I love one of my favorites. The Barons played them on the show. The Lime Spiders.
24th. You're right. 24th. Sorry.
I always with these musicians. I tell them when to play.
Yeah. Just a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's like a Friday.
Cool.
I think.
Yep.
But what we do in anything else? Are you hibernating, sort of?
Yeah, stuff's starting to come in. I got some stuff in March and April. I'm doing a bunch of gigs with Tony Infantino's band.
Oh, cool.
I can say Adriana's playing a lot.
Remedy and stuff.
Go
like
look
that.
like stuff Adriana's, but she's playing Valentine's Day, which is always the big thing.
Yeah.
It's our friend-anniversary for when we met.
Oh,
and then Candy's playing, my good friend Hannah's playing at the Little on Friday.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully it won't be like a blizzard, because everybody knows my rule. Comes down even an inch, I'm not going out.
Yeah.
I'm old, I'm cranky, I'm ready to get under a rock. But I thought we always end.
If I gotta go out, you gotta come out and hear me.
We always sort of end with the song, or Greg plays the kazoo.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is, because of that story I told you with the Essentials, and because they won't sue us because they're friends of mine, we're a podcast, not a radio show. So I just grabbed the High Risers album.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
This is a thing. This is also special in the spotlight because Jason Smay told me, you got the last one. I'm like, I got the last one.
Beautiful.
But we usually, if you want to pick out a song, or Greg can, we always...
Sure.
All right, Greg, go ahead, pick out.
We always
this is quite a few years ago now, but I did 2 gigs with these guys because they needed somebody to fill in. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I played a party, and I think it was a club. So it was fun. But it was like one of those things. I said, well, what songs you want to do? And Greg just throws 5 discs at me and goes, well, here they are. And I'm like, well, which ones are you going to do? Well,
they're short, so you play 30 songs.
I had to learn so many songs.
You got to remember, though, they're short songs, so they play 30.
Well, I know Designated Driver.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's what I had the
In
night
honor
I
of
went to-
driving in the snow.
No, in honor of also the night I went to Jazzberries, I had a
Okay.
designated driver.
Okay.
I drank too much Yukon Jack and Coca-Cola.
Wow.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
thank
always.
you so much.
To a great year of this, Greg.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Let's
Thank
eat.
you so much. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
don't try
That
to
was-
steal my seat.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was really a lot of fun. Thank you so much. You know what?
Can you drive with